Hello and welcome to our preview day here at the Imperial War Museum, Duxford. We're very excited ahead of tomorrow's sale. We're now fully set up and open to the public. So we've got quite a few things to talk you through. We've got two of the star cars here. Start with the 1923 Bentley 3 Litre. That's got a fabulous history. It's coming to market for the first time in 60 years. It actually started life as a race car that was raced at Brooklands by Captain Fiennes, who was a distant relative of Sir Ranulph and Ralph Fiennes the actor. That is powered by a 4-cylinder 3-litre 16-valve engine. Other end of the extreme, we've got a Ford RS200. Now, it was first registered in 1988. It's one of the Group B cars. Again, it's a 4-cylinder engine, but with a massive turbo on it. So it's 1.8 litres, but with the power kit on it, it's close to 200 brake horsepower per litre. So that's 350 brake horsepower. It's one of 49 left-hand drive road-going versions. It's been in 2 private collections since the 1990s, and that is an increasingly collectible fast Ford and real Group B magic. I mean, these machines were so amazingly capable at their time. The Michelin technicians, when Group B was at its height, said the limiting factor was the adhesion of the tyres. That was it. It wasn't mechanical grip. These were real weapons, as was a 3-litre Bentley in its day. You know, that was a 100-mile-an-hour sports car. So that particular car, as I say, just coming out to us for the first time in 60 years. Lovely patina to it. We've also got, in terms of big hitting marks, but small cars, this 1920 Bugatti Type 3 Brescia Modifie. Now, the Brescia was the first real production Bugatti model. They started with the Type 13, Type 15 and Type 17, which were initially 8-valve cars. And unlike today's Bugattis, they majored on being small, compact, maneuverable, great fun to drive, very responsive. The Brescia Modifie literally refers to the later cars. The Type 13, again, the name was carried across, the Type 22 and this a Type 23, and they were fitted with 16-valve engines. So like the Bentley 3 Litre, an advanced design. This car weighs about the same as a Caterham or a Lotus 7, so surprisingly potent despite the fact it's only 1.5 litres. And in terms of a pre-war car, the opposite in many ways to the Lagonda LG45 that's behind it, which is a real heavyweight. Beautifully made, beautifully styled. That particular car's had £130,000 spent on it from a restoration point of view. In terms of LG45 Tourers, I believe that's one of only 25. And of course, it's absolutely dwarfed by the Phantom 6 parked next to it. Now, this particular Phantom 6 has had 3 owners from new, and we believe it's covered a little under 18,000 miles. But despite the low mileage, this has had a fascinating life. The first owner of this car was Adnan Khashoggi, the rather notorious, infamous arms dealer. At the time he owned this Phantom 6, he had a fleet of 100 cars, 3 private jets and 3 super yachts. So that was in its day by far and away the most expensive car that money could buy. And that is a particularly interesting example. We have, over the last couple of auctions, really tried to pull together something for fast road to accept the growing market for performance cars. We've got a wonderful cross section here. So we've got a 2014 Mitsubishi Evo 10 FQ440. We're in polite company, so I can't tell you what FQ stands for, but it's something to do with being very quick. This car is amazing in many ways. This is 30 years on from the RS200. And although this is a road car, if you put those two on a stage together, the modern Mitsubishi would beat the RS200. That's just how far technology's progressed in the last 30 years. So that is probably still one of the fastest A to B cars that money could buy. Far more ultra, far more out is this Ultra GTR. These were, perhaps famously, the Ultima chassis was used in the development of Gordon Murray's groundbreaking McLaren F1. They used these to construct a couple of mules for the BMW engine, the BMW V12 that's in the McLaren F1. This is a recently registered example, still needs running in. We've got, in terms of, again, modern icons, we've got 2 Honda NSXs in this sale. This car is a one owner from new, and it spent most of its life abroad, so it's registering in kilometres, but it's a low mileage car as well as being one owner from new, and that is particularly unusual. Next to it we have a Porsche 911 Carrera 3.2 Supersport. Now this, I believe, is one of 14 UK supplied C16 examples. It's a comparatively modest recorded mileage. I think it's under 60,000. It's in lovely order. It's been repainted at some stage, but it's been done to a very good standard. It's got the desirable red pipe upholstery, and these Supersport cars have the same aesthetics as the 930 turbos. So you've got the wider wheel arches, you've got the lower suspension, you've got the bigger brakes. So they're turbo looks, but with a normally aspirated engine. Now that 3.2 litre was good for 231 brake horsepower, and these are much, much lighter than a modern 911. So they were still a quick car, 0 to 65.3, somewhere around that sort of region. And now if the Porsches are lightweight, this Bentley Continental GTC limited edition is a heavyweight. This has got the 6 litre twin turbo W12. These are phenomenally capable modern supercars. So this is a 4-seater convertible, but it's capable of the best part of 200 miles an hour, and just a very, very luxurious, stylish thing. Not for shrinking violets with these red accents, but great fun nonetheless. And as a limited edition, that one's really quite collectible. The interest shown in these Ford Sierra first generation RS Cosworths is enormous now. So this is one of the 3-door cars. It's finished in moonstone blue, so you could get them in moonstone blue, you could get them in white, you could get them in black. Moonstone blue for some people is the prettiest of the colours. This one has had a lot of restoration work gone into it. So the condition and the way it's all been gone through, the engine's been overhauled, bodywork's been repainted, the original upholstery's been very sympathetically sort of reconditioned, so it's a lovely thing. But these are just such an icon. Their appeal now is way ahead of what it was in period, and in period these were synonymous with being stolen, but they are a proper collector's car now. Porsche 996 Turbo next to it. Now these are very, very underrated cars. And the Turbo has got the Mezger engine, which is that much stronger than the normally aspirated unit that is found in most of the 996 cars. This is a manual car. It's got the X50 power upgrade. So again, this is a very, very capable modern sports car, but it's got that much more steering feel, that much more of an analog feel to it than today's 911s. But a very usable everyday proposition, but in lovely order again. Not usable on an everyday basis is this Revival Motorsports D-Type Evocation. Now, the plan was to build 27 of these, to have a grid of 25 and 2 as spares. They're not thought to have got anywhere towards the building 20, but this particular car was raced by the F1 commentator and motorsport enthusiast Tony Jardine, and then in more recent years it has been converted for road use. So it's had a larger alternator fitted, it's had the carburetor triple Webers, and it's just been gone through, and it's got the lovely registration number 56 XKD, XKD being the prefix for most of the factory D-types, and 56 being one of the 3 years that a D-type won at Le Mans. And it's finished in a Courier Cost tribute colours, so that's great fun. Behind it, Ferrari 360 Challenge. Now, this is the best sounding car here, and although 360 Challenge was never street legal, you can get them converted for road use if you so desire. But this is a genuine factory built Ferrari race car. So yes, 50 to 60,000 for something that you can't use on the road sounds like an indulgence, but one day I promise you, you will look back and think, I could have bought a factory built Ferrari race car for £50,000. This was notable. The Type 14 was notable for being one of the world's first glass fibre monocoques. So that was Colin Chapman's design genius at its best. They're very, very lightweight, very pretty, and these used to dominate their class at Le Mans. So very much a sort of iconic sports car. This one's had a lot of restoration work. It's in nice order. One of the BMW 6 Series cars. This particular one's had a huge amount of restoration work put into it, all the way through. Bodywork, interior, mechanicals, looking underneath it, it's as smart underneath as it is on top. And these E24 cars are becoming increasingly collectible, and that is a particularly nice example. Next to it, we've got a Maserati Indy. This is one of 440 cars fitted to V8, cam V8. This has got the five-speed manual gearbox even, power steering. They're a very good-looking car, proper four-seater, and you could buy one of these for less than a comparable E-Type, which seems crazy to me, but there you go. A fabulous thing, guided at 40 to 50,000. Not below the E-Type, they do have a very evergreen appeal, but there's a Series 2 next door to it. And then next door to that, we have a Proteus C-Type. Now this is one of 5 cars entered from a private collection. This was actually built by Mike Hallows, who was business partners with Nick Mason in 10 Tenths, Nick Mason being the famous Pink Floyd drummer. And this has just been done a while. It's built in the 80s. It's just got a lovely patina to it. So if you didn't know any better and you snuck up or that drove past you, you could well believe that was the real thing. But such a beautiful design, the C-Type. Speaking of beautiful designs, we have a 1933 Derby Bentley 3.5 litre pillarless coupe. Now this is understood to be the 5th car, or the 5th Derby Bentley delivered into private hands, and the first one to be bodied by Gurney Notting, and also one of only 16 Derby Bentley chassis to wear this style of pillarless coupe curvilinear bodywork. So a pillarless coupe is a difficult thing to make because you need so much strength into the body support frame to do without the B-pillar. So when you open these and have a look at them, you can see there is just the lack of what you would traditionally get for extra support there. So you need to be quite ingenious with the frame design. This particular car was a multiple concours winner in the early 1990s and has one of those amazing histories. It was, after the war, rebodied. They fitted a more practical 4-door saloon body to it. And then in the 80s, a previous owner of this car thought it was looking a bit tired and thought he would strike out and try and find an original Derby Bentley body for it. He bought a body, but it was only when he got the body home and checked it and found the chassis number on the bonnet hinge that he realised that he had, by a very happy accident, bought the original body for his car. And then a subsequent owner, sadly that keeper died, a subsequent owner was able to restore it and win all sorts of awards when the Derby was celebrating its 60th anniversary in 1993. I suppose it's appropriate that by far and away the most popular car for this auction in terms of website views, media coverage and things like that had a celebrity first owner. And this is Michael Caine's first car. He went big with his first car, bought the most expensive convertible that money could buy, a real kind of 2 fingers to all the people who'd said that he'd never make it as a Hollywood actor with his Cockney accent. Well, he proved them wrong, and then he showed them that he proved them wrong by driving around London, or rather being chauffeur-driven around London, in this Silver Shadow Drophead coupe. This is, interestingly enough, the car that he wooed his wife Shakira in, and it was a car that was then bought. The second owner was Jack Leach, the proprietor of the Gasworks restaurant, where Caine went, also the Rolling Stones, Princess Margaret, the Krays, you get the picture, Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, the creme de la creme of 1960s and early 70s society would go to the Gasworks. And this was a car that was very well known, being driven up and down the Fulham and Kings roads for decades thereafter. Jack Leach actually kept it all the way up until his death in 2013, then went into professional storage till 2018 when the vendor bought it. He's restored it, repainted it, retrimmed it, had the engine done and various bits and pieces. Car is featured heavily in Candid Caine, which was a documentary made in the late 60s about Michael Caine, and it's just a wonderful piece of 1960s memorabilia. As well as all the cars indoors, we've got 2 marquees here at Duxford to keep things away from the elements. We'll start with a good cross-section in here, so we've got everything from a Westfield 11 modelled on the iconic Lotus 11 that was so dominant as an 1100cc sports car in the 50s. We've got, standing right next to us, a Bentley Continental GT. They are enormous value for money now. This one's guided at 16 to 20,000, which when you bear in mind is potentially a 200-mile-an-hour car, seems crazy value. We've got here a Lotus Elan Plus 2. This one was interesting because it was beautifully restored in the 1990s. And the then owner who commissioned the restoration actually worked as an interior designer for Mercedes-Benz. And he took a kind of perverse joy in commuting from the UK to Stuttgart and back in this Lotus, given that Lotus can be an acronym for lots of trouble, usually serious. So he wanted to prove people wrong and had that car built to be as reliable as possible. It's not long come out of storage, been recommissioned, a fresh MOT on it. So that's a very nice thing. Next to it is an MGB GT V8. That's one of 3 cars entered from the collection of the late Jeff Ward. Jeff was a great supporter of motorsports and grassroots motorsports in particular. So this car could do with some recommissioning, but you know, it's running and driving. It is a genuine factory BGT V8. And of course, the BGT V8 was a direct inspiration for Project Ada that became the MGR V8. This is a UK car, so it's rare as a UK car. It's done a limited mileage, I think it's about 22,000, and it's part of a private collection that's been entered. And that's been freshly serviced for the sale, 4 brand new tyres. And next to it again is a Ford Capri 2.8i Special. Now that was in single ownership for 20 odd years. You'll have to forgive a little bit of dirt on the bonnet. And that's been to Capri Club events, the length and breadth of the country. Still got its original half leather Recaro interior and its original RS style 7-spoke alloys. Again, we've got a Jensen Interceptor 2 here in this rather striking yellow. Left-hand drive, so great for running on the continent, coming from quite a big private collection. And these are just a very good looking, very capable 60s GT car. Equally capable from a completely different era. This 2004 BMW 645i convertible. These are very, very nice cars to drive. This one entered without reserve, so potentially inexpensive bit of fun for someone. Proof that you don't have to spend a fortune to buy something very rare. This Bentley Arnage Le Mans limited edition is one of 62 right-hand drive cars ever made. It's finished in special order metallic green. It's got split green and cream leather upholstery. These cars had special Le Mans dial instruments, Le Mans badging. They had wider wheel arches. They had special alloys, different bumpers, and just a twist on the whole Arnage thing. Mechanically very similar to a Red Label. So you've got that turbocharged 6 3/4 litre V8, plenty of performance, plenty of style. This one's guided at 18 to 22. Appropriately enough, given that we're on a World War II airfield, here is a 1941 David Brown Tug. This, believe it or not, despite being on the small side, I mean, you're not talking much over 7 foot long there, weighs in at 5 tons. So there aren't very many things that this thing can't drag along. So you could imagine this having towed things like a Lancaster bomber out onto the airfield and all that sort of thing. So just great fun. This has been nicely restored. It'd be a great addition to any particular collection. Still in working order. My colleague Paul's been driving it, and just huge fun and very appropriate to have it at Duxford. Morris Minors are a ubiquitous classic. They're a little bit like the Austin 7, but for a slightly younger generation. This particular car has been restored twice in its life, but amazingly it's been in the current family ownership since the year it was first registered, so since 1965. So that is a much beloved treasure, sadly only coming to market because the late owners died, but great fun and so nostalgic for so many people, and a genuinely practical classic that's easy to keep on the road and use. Another archetypal British classic, Frog Eye Sprite. This one, apart from the non-standard hardtop, has got a special aluminium bonnet rather than steel, but it's all metal. It's been sympathetically gone through and uprated, so it's a little bit more usable on modern roads, but these are huge fun, and that's a particularly bright example. We have quite a few commercials in the sale, quite a few 4x4s. There's Ford Model A pickup. Again, it's been very nicely restored. Somebody spent a long time going through this and got the livery for a local firm in Bedfordshire on it. And again, these with their 3.3 litre straight four side valve engines, surprisingly torquey. So they might only be a 3-speed gearbox, but they can bowl along on a country road, no problem at all. Hills aren't a challenge either. So good fun, that. This is the catalogue cover car, which for many people will be the star of the show, 1939 Lagonda V12 Drophead Coupe. It's been meticulously restored. There are literally hundreds of photos on file showing the car being taken down to a bare chassis and pulled back up again. So when they were doing the restoration, it was very methodical. They actually unpicked all the aluminium panels off the ash frame. And then when the ash frame was exposed, they cut out any rotten bits of timber, set new timber in while the ash frame was still on the chassis. And only once that had been repaired did they take the ash frame off, strip the chassis right down to the bare metal, restore and rebuild everything thereafter. So really been gone through stem to stern. Got to be one of the nicest examples out there. And this was, for many people, W.O. Bentley's masterpiece. The 4.5 litre V12 that pumped out more power than Rolls-Royce managed with their 7.3 litre Phantom 3 engine, again a V12. This, in terms of British engineering of the 1930s, was about as advanced as it got. So this was a car, especially with the Frank Thiele styling, that could hold its head up high against a Delage or a Delahaye with Fagoni and Falaschi coachwork. This is really, in terms of British 1930s cars, about as good as it gets. So this particular one's guided at 250 to 300. We hope very much we find it a new owner tomorrow. We hope very much you're able to join us Wednesday, March the 15th. The auction starts at 1 o'clock. We welcome you there.